Well, the National Assembly Speaker Mapisa-Nqakula says there's a shortfall of 74 million rand from the Treasury's budget to cover the business of the National Assembly. Parliament submitted a budget of 2.7 billion rand this afternoon. The Speaker says Parliament will have to make up the shortfall through retained earnings and revenue. Newzroom Afrika's Athi in Mtongana joins us live, in fact, with the Speaker. Athi, good evening to you. How serious is this?
Well, it's serious, Stephen, given the scope of the work that Parliament has to do. But I do have the Speaker with me without wasting any time. Thank you so much, Mama, for your time. How will Parliament make up for that 74 million shortfall? We know that you'll have to look at other strategies to make up for this money, given the amount of work that has to be implemented by Parliament.
Well, Parliament will have, I'm sure when you spoke to the Secretary of Parliament, he should have unpacked that better. But if there are any reserves somewhere, then Parliament would then have to consider utilizing those. Depending, of course, on what that money is required for. Because you don't just take a decision to utilize your resources, your reserves on very trivial matters, but you rather focus on matters which are critical, work which is critical for Parliament, and then you can utilize those.
Given the work, given the work that has to be done by Parliament, a lot of people are asking themselves questions about the rebuilding process and how far Parliament is with regards to assessing the damage following the fire. Where are we there? And in that budget, then, has this been fitted in?
Not at all. We're far from it. Actually, we are at a point where Public Works is still conducting an assessment. I'm sure you are aware that DPWI has conducted a company called Kuha, and that company has been doing the work of actually making a determination. Firstly, whether in fact we'll be able to ever go back in there, the extent of the damage, and what are the implications, what would be the implications financially if we were to rebuild Parliament. So all that, and that report has been presented before the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management. All that is happening now because they've not completed the process. It was premature to go to the committee. So what we are doing now is we're waiting for the final report from them, and once we receive the final report, our own internal now experts, because we have also tried to insource a team of engineers who will then play an advisory role to the Executive Authority of Parliament by way of unpacking the report, explain the technical terminology that will be used in the report, and help us to simplify the report so that at the end of it all, it assists us to take a decision whether in fact we'll be able to restore this Parliament, or actually it's time for us to consider another space for us to rebuild Parliament.
Speaking about Parliament and just its move and just the buildings generally, are you considering then that call by the EFF through their tabling of that bill of moving Parliament somewhere? You did touch on it on your speech earlier on.
To be honest, it's a very opportunistic call in that, yes, there is a debate amongst people, amongst parties, about whether in fact to remain here and have government operating from Pretoria, whether financially it's a viable model to follow. So you do have those kinds of very robust discussions in all the parties. However, the reason why I'm saying I found it rather opportunistic to raise it now, it is because we are still dealing with the trauma of seeing a House of Parliament going up in flames. So you have to do a lot of work by way of assessing the damage, seeing what next to do, and even be advised by those who are knowledgeable about whether in fact we'll be able to rebuild from the ruins which we have. Now, with regards to Pretoria, I'm sure you are aware that over the years, people have been talking about moving back about moving to Pretoria. However, this matter is in the Constitution. Constitution states clearly that Cape Town is a seat of Parliament. And therefore, if the time comes for us to engage on the matter, it would require a process as well, which will include ordinary citizens of the country. I'm saying that because when we draw the Constitution, a lot of what went into the Constitution were issues which were raised by ordinary South Africans who are not members of Parliament, those we represent. So in other words, even when the time comes, we'll then have to talk amongst ourselves, we'll have to lead the process, but you'd have to make sure that you take the people of South Africa with you, so that finally when you take the decision, people are not taken by surprise. But equally, and I dread to say this, you also have to go way beyond your narrow interests in these matters. From my side, whenever I think about it, I dread to think about us leaving Cape Town and creating an enclave of a particular group of people. And therefore, I think that much as it is an emotional issue, it looks urgent, but it has to be well thought through, well processed, and all of us have to be clear about what the possible financial implications will be and what actually even the political implications will be.
Speaker, we are running out of time. I do want you to respond briefly, if you can, to a letter that was written by the UDM to your office regarding the issue that has come up with the president and the robbery at his farm. They come out there to suggest even that the president should go on sabbatical leave until August. Have you received that letter and have you responded? And what is your response then to that letter?
I can confirm that I received the letter last night, and I can confirm that I'm discussing the matter with the team, clerk of the assembly, the legal team, and so on. And hopefully, because it's not just UDM which has written to me, the ATM has also written to me. In fact, the ATM has given me a deadline of 7 days. So I have to go back to them. However, as you do that, again, you need to get impeccable legal opinion which you are certain will not be challenged. You don't just move on your own and just use your emotions and push ahead. You think through issues and think what are going to be the implications of this. So it's just those two. And then, of course, already we have Floyd Shivambo has fielded questions directly to the president. So we are not saying, right, this matter will not be handled by Parliament at the appropriate time. However, you've got to put processes in place, similar, if I may say, to what is happening to the public protector. You will recall that with the public protector, people started calling for public protector must be removed, this and that, only to find legal opinion will inform you that you've got to follow certain processes, you've got to establish a committee, you've got to follow ABCDNE. So I'm just using that as an example. They may not be similar in nature, but you don't just move and just take a decision like that, which is uninformed by the legal people and the legal consequences of your decision.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We'll leave it there with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Newzroom Afrika, Mapisa-Nqakula.